Engine 1 from car 1. Car 1's on scene at Subin Command. Give me a C.A.N report.
Hello, everybody. This is Mike Goldstein, Stickers of the C.A.N Report. I come at you today with a great guest, Ian Schulte. Am I saying it right? Schulte?
Schulte.
Wow, I was way off. Schulte,
I've heard
spelling.
worse.
Common spelling, Schulte. Fantastic, man. He is, dude, he's a solid guy, solid brother who just loves the job, loves to train. And him and I have been talking now for a few weeks. And I think a lot of you guys know who he is. He's a hard-working man, and I'm excited to have you on tonight. Ian, thank you so much for being on the show.
No, thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, brother. I love the guest list that I'm getting. I just got some real passionate people on here, and you're definitely one of them. You love the game, you love the craft, you love people. You're here for the people, you're here for the mission. So it's going to be an honor to talk with you and see what kind of rabbit holes we get down into tonight. So I'll start with your bio. As Ian told me earlier, he does not like talking about himself and talking about his accomplishments, but hell, we have him. So I guess we'll have to talk about him a little bit. So Ian comes with 17 years in the service. He has over 12 years as an officer. He's currently a training chief. He's a fucking nerd. He has a master's in fire service executive leadership. That is nerdy shit right there. And he enjoys the challenge of learning. He likes PT and challenging himself. He is also a Texas smoke diver, Georgia Spartan, an OBT 5 graduate, One Bad Tour 5 graduate. He teaches with Roughneck Firemanship LLC. He's part of the Uncommon Fireman e-board. He run the Traveling Fireman Facebook page. He teaches at the Oath Keepers Fire Conference in the Truck Cadre. And he works as part of the CFT, County Fire Tactics Green Team. Man, that is a great list. That's definitely not talking about yourself. That's major accomplishments. And that's cool shit, man.
Well, there's only one small correction.
What you got?
And I'm a Tennessee smoke diver, not a Texas smoke diver.
Did I say Texas?
You said Texas. Yeah, Texas doesn't exist anymore.
I'm sorry, Texas. I meant Tennessee. No disrespect.
I just want to be clear in what I do. I don't want anybody to ever think that I'm somebody that I'm not or that I'm fronting.
Absolutely.
If that makes sense.
Totally makes sense. Ian, thank you so much for being on here with me today.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. After I heard Brother Bryce Hughes' podcast with you, man, he's a solid dude. We sat there and we've been talking back and forth for a couple of years, me and him, and had a great chance to meet with him at OBT5. We sat there, we put in sweat equity, we suffered together through 24 very rough hours with Baz and his cadre. It was an awesome time. And to listen to him tell his story and everything gave me a chance to go back and listen to the stories that had come through. And I just want to tell you that I appreciate what you're doing with your platform and the voices that you're giving to people. Big names, small names, doesn't necessarily matter. The more that we can share across this industry, the more that we can get our own stories out, the more that we can open dialogues, and the more that we can talk, the better this industry will become. There's too much in this industry, people tearing each other down. There's so much armchair quarterbacking. There's so much, I would do this, I would do that. So much shitting on people who care simply because they care. And it's these bonds, these relationships, these conversations that help make a better fire service. So I appreciate you.
Oh, amen, brother. I appreciate you. That's wow. I'm kind of speechless on that one. Thank you. That was a lot, and that means so much. You're absolutely right. We need to stop eating our own. And I've talked about that before. Man, when I see people either posting or talking about some of the struggles they have from dealing with other people who just shit on top of them, or maybe posting workouts or talking about the job too much, or I think the only people who can really shit on us for talking about the job too much or doing too much is our spouses, to be honest with you, because they don't want to hear it all the time, right? So they've earned their place to maybe say, enough, I don't want to hear it. But when you see other people just completely crap on people who are on the same job and live the same life, it's hard, man. And doing this platform, it ain't easy because there's people out there, I'm sure they're shitting on me right now, and it's just the way it is. You got to keep going. And like I posted before, right? Fighting a good fight. We're all doing that. From what you do, from all the classes that you're teaching, spreading that good word, meeting solid people, inspiring them, motivating them. I love to see all of that. And I don't need a big important guest list to spread that word. it's the people who are on the battle lines. That's who I want spreading that word. Those are the people I want to talk to. The ones that are put, like you said, sweat equity, right? We're all sweating together. We're all putting our gear on the same way and charging in there and doing our jobs and inspiring others to get in there and charge hard. So, man, thank you for the kind words. I really do appreciate that so much. That's what keeps me going, especially coming from someone like you, man. It's so motivational, and thank you.
Hey man, I'm just a guy like you. I put my pants on every day the same way that you do, one leg at a time, you know. And realistically, that's the biggest thing that we need to understand is that we're all people. We're all humans who are going through our own same struggles every day. We have our own confidence issues that we're fighting through every day. We're trapped on this giant rock hurtling through space together. There's no way off. There's only one way out, and that is the inevitable fate that we all share, and that is that we are going to die. So why would I waste my time just trying to tear people down to make myself feel better? At the end of the day, I have my struggles, you have your struggles, and my time would be better suited trying to build you up, to try and make you the best version of yourself that you can be, rather than sit here and tear you down. I've never had anybody tear me down who is working harder than me. I've never had somebody sit here and shit talk me who actually knew me. When it comes to people who sit here and tear each other down, your biggest shit talkers, your biggest dissenters are going to be the people that don't know you, the people who don't know Mike, because they would see that your passion, your drive, it's not that you're better than anyone, because I'm not better than anyone. The only thing that I'm trying to be better than is myself. I wake up every day with one goal, and that's to go to bed a better Ian Schulte than the dude that I woke up as. That's through introspection, taking a look at my life, the things that I do, the interactions that I have day in, day out, the conversations that I have. You know, as a chief officer, going to bed pretty much every night, thinking about the conversations that I have with my guys through the course of the day. Did I do this right? Did I do this right? Did I do that wrong? Did I say the wrong thing? Did I offend somebody? Not necessarily because realistically, I do care about what I say, but I want the things that I say to have the impact that I intended, not for it to come off the incorrect way. Don't get me wrong, I'm a father's son. I can be a dickhead. I am sarcastic, use a lot of profanity, and my sense of humor is extremely dry. But I care, and I want people to understand that, and I want to become the best version of myself. So I take a look at all the actions that I have throughout the course of the day, and I want to be a better person, and I always work to try and be that better person. Probably the same way that you are. And people who are like us, who care and are passionate about the job, we're passionate about the things that we do, and we want to be the best version of ourselves that we can be, whether you realize it or not, this is what you're doing. And this is what we need to see more of. More introspection, more reflection, more committing to that cause. Whether it's looking inside through just thinking about what we do, or getting out there on the drill yard and banging out reps, being out in the gym, doing reps, being in turnout gear, doing reps. It's all part of making ourselves to the best version of ourselves that we can be.
Amen. That was fantastic. End of the show right there. No, man, that was fantastic, dude. This is gonna be a good show. I'm pumped for this. I gotta crack open a drink so we can get started on this because I don't know if it's gonna crack that open. I gotta get buffed for this.
Hey, how is that stuff? I've been wanting to try it.
I'm trying. This is my first time trying it, so yeah, it's a shameless plug for a brother helping another brother. This is a guy out of Baltimore. His thing is he donates his sales to people in need, to firefighters in need. Everything you just talked about is pretty much what this guy is doing. So I'm happy to try his product. I'm happy to talk about it for real quick. Just I think it's cool. Like it's founded by firefighters and he supports first responders and gives back to those who need it. So let's try it out. Nozzle Tov.
Go get them, brother.
Go get him, brother. Hey, it's not bad. It's actually pretty good. It's not too sugary. So you did one bad tour. You did it with a bunch of solid people. And that's I know a very, very difficult program. I mean, hell, you did you did Tennessee Smoke Divers first, correct?
I did Spartan first, Tennessee Smoke Diver, then OBT.
Okay. So you did Spartan first. I'm not really all familiar with Spartan, so can you tell me a little bit about Spartan?
So Spartan is a 24-hour survival and basic live fire skills course designed for a 1 to 5 year firefighter. Similar to OBT from the perspective that there's going to be PT, there's going to be skill stations, there's going to be terminal performance objectives. It's a different environment, different set of instructors, but ultimately it's geared towards stress inoculation, high intensity base training. In my personal opinion, I'm a proud Spartan, proud to be able to go back and assist with those classes. It's really the first step if you're going to jump into this end of the pool. Okay. If you want to challenge yourself, if you want to go out and you want to try and do hard things, Spartan is a really good course to gauge where you're at if you want to bite off bigger challenges. And that's not talking down about it at all, because it really is a great program. It taught me a lot. It was the hardest thing that I had done in my life at the time. But I like the thrill of the challenge, and I hate my physical well-being, so might as well go out and try to do harder and harder things. So that's why I went to Tennessee, was able to go do the Tennessee program 4 days. It's clocked at 30 hours. It's closer to 40 in my personal opinion, but that's neither here nor there. It was a good kick in the teeth. Walked out of there a lot more confident than I was walking into it, and I signed up for OBT, and I showed up, and man, that was an experience.
Out of all of those, I don't know if you want to say or not, but which one was the most difficult?
So that's not easy to gauge, because if we look at the difference between the OBT program and the smoke diver program, the Tennessee program, what's hard about OBT is that it is a constant 24-hour beatdown, and the welcome party, because eat your Wheaties, that first welcome party that they do there, they're coming for your soul. But once you get past that, it's forcing yourself to keep going, making sure that you're eating, making sure that you're drinking, making sure that you're maintaining nutrition to get through that 24 hours. It's a hard, constant grind. What's very difficult about Tennessee is that there's a stop time, and when you complete those evolutions and you're done, you get to go back to your dorm room, you get to go to sleep, and you get to wake up and you get to do it again. And there's something different about that, because when you go to bed, you might sleep. I didn't. I was up with cold sweats, hot sweats. Not that I was sick, but my thermal regulation was so screwed up, and just the mental anguish of knowing that I get to go do it again. So they're both torturous in different ways. And again, I know that the program that I went through is not the hardest one that's out there. And I'm not talking down about Tennessee. The instructor Preston Benniger and instructor West were two of the toughest guys that I've had a chance to deal with in the course of my career. And I respect everything they pour into that program. But, they're both Georgia guys, and there's a difference between the Tennessee class and the Georgia class. So
sure. Interesting. So you did it with Bryson, and that dude was, I look at the pictures and I look at that guy, like one of the pictures I was talking to him about it, he's in the middle of a push-up, and it looks like he's pushing demons out. Like, he is just screaming out all that pain. His face really says it all in that program. And were you in the same mindset? Like, when you finished that, I think he was on the verge of crying, of just tears of joy of accomplishing something so major. Especially amongst naysayers, anybody else trying to knock it down. When you completed those programs, was it like that? Did it feel like that, just the pure joy of accomplishing something that most people can't do?
So I'm different, man. There's a lot of guys out there who, when they're in the middle of it, they'll be smiling, they'll be sitting there, they'll be having a good time. They might be screaming when they're in the middle of PT, but I try and lock in. So like when I'm on the yard, I'm in the mindset that I'm here to work. And I believe in suffering in silence. I'm not saying that I'm always the best at it. Everybody's grunting, everybody's having a difficult time, but I'm trying to internalize all those negative emotions. I'm trying to maintain control of my mentality. I'm trying to keep myself in the right frame of mind, because I don't want an instructor to think that I'm out here having the time of my life, because
Sure.
if the instructor thinks that I'm having the time of my life, guess what? Things might get worse.
Yeah.
I don't want an instructor to sit here and think that I'm having the worst day of my life and that I need to scream to get these emotions out, because then I've painted a target on my back. I don't want any of that attention. The goal is essentially not to draw the attention, just stay in your own lane and do your work, if that makes sense, And
Absolutely.
One of the things that Baz said, looking at some of the guys, this guy couldn't stop smiling the entire way through, but me, I never cracked a smile. Just to me, that I don't want to crack a smile. I'm here to work, and It's not that I'm not having quote unquote fun in the middle of it. Realistically, I'm not. I'm just doing the work. and I love doing the work. But it comes down to your mentality. And for me, I'm a lock-in kind of guy, because if I don't lock in, it's going to be easier for me to wind up being thrown out of my game. And that's when you start going down the rabbit hole, you start spiraling, and that's when you wind up, tapping out
You got
or
your game
getting
face on.
dropped on performance.
You're ready
Absolutely.
right. You got your game face. You're ready to rock and roll. Game face time. I love it. You got to get in that mindset for hard work. Absolutely. So now that you finished that, is there any other programs that you have coming up? Is there any other bigger? I don't know what could be more challenging than those that you've taken. I haven't heard of anything that's. I know there's the Crucible, but out of these kind of programs, is there anything else you plan to take or you're preparing for?
So here's the thing, is that I don't necessarily prepare for any particular program. I try and stay job performance ready. That doesn't necessarily mean that I'm in the greatest shape, doesn't mean that I'm in the worst shape that I've ever been. I try and maintain this constant state of readiness, because it's easier to be ready when you're already ready. So other programs, I do need to go back. I left some pride in a little town called Chatsworth, Georgia. There's a program called Georgia Flames, which is firefighters laboring and mastering essential skills. I was going to try and get into the next Flames, or sign up for the next Flames class. Again, you have to go through an application period or an application process, and you have to be selected. I went to class 30 back in 2020, and I was not in the physical or mental shape that I am in now. I wound up getting hurt in that class. I was medically dropped from it, which was a big blow to the ego, but it's what I needed at the time. I needed that failure, because that reset, that humbling, helped set me up on the path for success to where I am today.
Let's talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about humbling. How does that feel, man? So my past experience, when I was coming up in the fire service, I started late in the game. So I was an adult when I started doing the fire service, right? And but I thought I knew it all when I started doing. I was like my second year doing shit, and after 2 years, I'm like, why are you doing this? Why are we doing that? They don't know what they're doing, and I would just kind of just mouth off and shoot at the hip all the time. After a while, I think it was like a year or so later, I started getting humbled about things I actually didn't know that much, and it's pretty tough if you've never experienced it before. I mean, I've had a rough life, so I've experienced some things that most people wouldn't. But when you think you know it all, though, and then you get slapped in the face with reality of you don't know half the shit you think you know, it's pretty difficult. And when you get that lesson on the fire grounds, that's a big one. And there's people that go almost their whole career with either not getting life experience or never actually being humbled and learning humility. And it's like coming out of sobriety, and you think you walk around like life is a party because you've never had that experience of somebody putting you in your place, or an experience, of putting yourself in that place of, oh, I don't know it all. What was it for you? Was it that? Was it, hey, I need to actually slow it down a little bit, and realize that I need to watch when I'm doing a little bit more because of the injury, or even in the fire service itself? Like, was there ever a time where you got hit with that humble stick and went, shit, yeah, I'm going to take a step back for a second and realize I need to study a little bit more or have a little more life experience?
Yeah, if you see me over here smiling, it's because, yes, that experience, no, that was just, I didn't have people helping me to prepare for that class in the way that I needed to prepare. Like, it was pretty much, I'm going to go figure it out. And I figured it out, and I figured out that I wasn't ready. But what you talked about there is one of the things that I love to talk about. And I did my first leadership lecture this past year at the Charleston Metro Fools annual training weekend that they do. Do you know what the psychological phenomenon that you talked about is called? And did you know that it's actually a psychological phenomenon?
No and no.
Okay, so when you're a new person in any industry, you'll go through your rudimentary training, you'll gain a little bit of rudimentary experience, and from there you'll establish this mental box, let's call it, where you think you know how the job and how life works. And if you see anybody stepping outside that box, you wonder why they're doing it, because you know how things are supposed to be. You know how people are supposed to act according to the Essentials Manual, which realistically is just the bare minimum. Well, this is where we get the whole concept of the 220, been on the job for 2 years and have 20 years of experience, or, the guy who's been on the job for 6 months and has 30 years of experience.
Mhm.
This phenomenon is known as the Dunning-Kruger effect. So the Dunning-Kruger effect happens across essentially any industry that requires any type of training and any type of knowledge base. It's where your confidence exceeds your competence. So you are far more confident in your capabilities than you are actually competent at performing the job. You think you know more than you actually do. You think that you're more experienced than you actually are. With this false confidence and this false experience, which not saying that your experiences are false, it's just you don't have enough of it to back up your knowledge base. What that can do is that can actually set you up for failure because you overestimate your own capabilities. August 13th, 2013 was the day where I came face to face with this reality. I worked for a small little suburban fire district in northern Kentucky, just outside Cincinnati, Ohio, and was dispatched out to a working building fire. My boss at the time, assistant chief, showed up. I was a first due company officer, and he struck a second alarm. We had a working fire in a funeral home, and fire was coming out of Delta side. I had done the pre-plan in that building. I knew that building inside and out. I knew my stretch was going to wind up being super easy. As soon as the first due engine rolls up, we're getting there. My boss throws a wrench in my play, and he made me position outside of the collapse zone because he had a feeling the building was coming down. We can sit here and we can debate the nuance of it all day long, but I was 5 years on the job, and I had been a company officer for right about a year at this point, and I didn't have the experience that I thought I did. I didn't have the knowledge base that I needed, didn't have the experience that I needed to be able to make good decisions that day. And that's why I'm alive, is because I didn't have that experience. I'm alive because my stretch came up short. We wound up running out of hose. And when we were trying to get more hose inside the door, we had this is before the UL vertical ventilation and ventilation studies came out. So we didn't understand the concept, or I didn't understand the concept of flow path in the way that it's been described in essentially the past 10 years, because we're talking about 12 years ago now.
Okay.
When we opened the doors, it created enough of a flow path that it caused the attic to explode. Had I done my job in the way that I wanted to do it, had my boss not altered my play, we would have wound up in the attic space at the same time that explosion would have occurred. Now, whether that was a smoke explosion, a backdraft, it was an adverse fire phenomenon. That fire sent me back to the drawing board. That fire means so much to me that I keep the pre-plan or the blueprint of that building in my home office to remind me that you don't know everything and that you can make mistakes. And this job has real world ramifications and real world consequences.
Absolutely. And everybody was, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, continue, please.
Yeah. So with that, understanding that basically, if you follow me here, as you go through your career, you start off here. As you get a little bit of experience, you notice that your confidence starts going up. You wind up at the top of this little mountain here. We call this the peak of Mount Stupid, which is where you're your most dangerous. And you have one of those events, and it throws you off the peak of Mount Stupid down into the Valley of Despair. And after that, after you get yourself together and you start building just a little bit of confidence, a little bit more competence, and you start training, you notice that through your career, you actually start gaining your confidence at a much slower rate, but your competence increases much faster because you're paying more attention, because you're actually taking heed of the lessons that people have been trying to teach you all along that you haven't been willing to listen to because you knew better.
Right.
And that's where we're at now.
Wow. Yeah, that'll do it. That will really teach you that experience real quick of how to be humble. Again, some people learn that way. Some people learn by someone just telling them straight to face, and how did you, when you walked away from that, thank God you walked away from that, and your members did too, it sounds like, everyone was fine. You weren't in that environment. How did you handle that? How did you feel? Like, did you go home and just kind of take inventory of everything that happened and come back to work with a new look on how you're going to handle things?
I had a lot of conversations. My old man was a fire chief, and me and him had a lot of conversations about things. He helped me to understand that basically, while you're responsible for men who are old enough to be your dad, because I was like 24 at the time with guys on the company who were mid 40s, late 30s, guys who were literally old enough to be my old man. While I was still young and while I didn't have a lot of experience and I was still essentially a kid, I had a responsibility to sit here and think about everything that I had done. I owed it to these guys to try and be the better boss that I could, to try and learn that I needed to slow down and that I actually needed to take the lessons that are being tried, or that guys are trying to teach me, to heart. That's one of the most difficult things about being a company officer, especially a young company officer who doesn't have a tremendous amount of life experience, is when we come into the fire service, we think that our bosses know everything and that we need to know everything if we are going to be the boss. It couldn't be further from the truth. As a matter of fact, I'm an idiot. I just happen to have a bunch of guys who work for me who are fantastic individuals who know their jobs in and out. I don't know everything, but you want to know what? If you want to know something about vertical ventilation, I know the truck boss that I'm going to call about it. You want to know about mental resiliency and maximizing my SCBA and how to do any type of RIT operation, I know the truck captain that I'm calling. I want to know anything when it comes to water operations, I know the engine lieutenant that I'm calling. At the end of the day, I'm not an expert in anything. The only thing that I'm an expert in is my own fucked up ideas. Sorry for the profanity.
That's okay.
But that's the only thing that I'm an expert in, is just my own beliefs. I know who to call. And if I would have learned that lesson when I was younger, I would have clinged to my senior man and I would have taken all the lessons that he was trying to teach me, because he was so patient with me, especially when he's the one who got passed over for promotion. I can't tell you how thankful I am now, and I should have been more thankful back then that that guy was willing to take me under his wing and actually teach me how to be a good boss. We need more good senior men out there like that.
Yeah, and you make a good point. We need more senior men like that out there. I don't know. I feel that some people just really get hung up on promotions, and people are so quick to promote. They're not getting that, like we just spoke about, the life experience, the knowledge that comes with doing this job. And you only spend 5 years, and then you promote when you're fifth year, and you maybe have seen 2 fires in your life, and or even life experience, right? Like, you haven't really experienced life. You might be a 23-year-old lieutenant now on a career department. What's your life experience? Because you're going to have a senior guy that is really good, who has that life experience, who has that knowledge, and a good senior man's going to respect the person that he's going to help teach them. But that's not really the senior man's job, is to teach the officer, right? Whether it's a lieutenant or a captain. And I think that more people need to learn more about. You got to go?
No, sorry, I just keep that on. And
no worries. But I think that some people get so focused on the promotional part of it and not the senior part of it, that there's so much more growth to be had learning the job and learning those life experiences of dealing with people, dealing with patients, knowing your buildings, knowing your districts, knowing your trucks, knowing the nuances, honestly, of your trucks and of your personnel. That's the senior man thing. When you got a senior man, it goes, when he can hear a call going and he knows exactly what it's going to be, where it's going to be. It's not complacent, it's experience. That he's not moving slow because he's complacent. He's moving, he knows what he's going to, because it's the umpteenth, 100th call of that typical residence he's been to, and he knows the insides and outside of that house. And he can tell you where that panel is. He can tell you the reason why they set it off before you even get to the building. And you're not going to get that in 5 years and become an officer. And then, the senior guys going to say, I'm telling you, this is what's going to happen. And then if you don't listen to them, you downplay that senior man role, and you lose that buy-in from that senior guy. And I think that more people need to develop that role and watch those senior guys of how they operate, and maybe even talk to them like, well, you've been doing this job for 10 years. Why haven't you promoted yet? Or you've been doing this for 15 years. How come you're still where you're at? Because some people don't ask. They just go, well, maybe the guy doesn't have any ambition, right? Or maybe he just likes to ride the back seat, or he likes to be the operator, which I love driving. But I think sometimes you need to ask those senior guys those questions of, how come you haven't promoted yet? Or what's your game plan? And the senior guy will tell you, like, they'll be happy to let you know why they haven't moved up. And it's usually not because of laziness. There's some bigger reasons because of it. And it's usually has to do a lot with brotherhood and helping to train newer and oncoming guys. And a lot of times it's because they like to see people succeed, and they like to be on that line and help train the new generation and help them move up. And just as officers love to see their guys promote, I can tell you as a 46-year-old guy now, like, I love watching my young guys move up and promote as well. I love to see them succeed. I love them to succeed in a fire or a tough call. And that's another thing too, of being there as a senior guy and again, having that life experience to help them along in those tough situations, whether it's a call or just learning how to do the job itself, which can mess with people's minds, as we all know. And that senior man, or girl, that's what they're there for, right? And that's there to help to lift those people up and help guide them down the right path and let them know it's okay, and you can survive this, and I'll show you how, and I'll tell you how.
Yeah, I mean, I can teach any idiot with 2 functioning brain cells how to talk on the radio and how to do the procedural documentation to fill out your fire reports and do all the administrative tasks that comes along with being a company officer. That stuff's procedural, but at the end of the day, I can't teach somebody about the things that can only be observed over time.
Mm-hmm.
Watching a city essentially being built from the ground up, the community that I work in, 7 years ago, probably half the buildings, maybe a third of the buildings that are currently there weren't there. Watch them being built over the past 6.5, 7 years. The construction alone, the differences that we've seen over that time, you can't just download that into somebody. And the things that the guys who have been there for 10 to 15 years have seen, the guys who grew up in that area, the things that they've seen, you can't teach that. You can't put that into a book. You can't put that into a presentation. You can't sit here and do anything other than just try and explain it to them when you go to these calls. Because you're right, they might know where the fire alarm is, or they might know that every time that a droplet of water falls out of the sky, you're going to go to this one building for a fire alarm, because it happens every time.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing the nuance of where the Knox boxes are, where the FTCs are, all things that we could stick into books, but knowing the specific nuances behind how this building reacts in comparison to how this building reacts, when you make your connections. Small things that, again, you can't just sit here and write down the exact things that you're talking about. Some guys don't want to promote because they're perfectly fine doing what they're doing. Some guys don't want to promote because they'll tell you that they don't want to be in charge. They don't want the responsibility. Mm-hmm. Now, they might be honest about that, or it could be that they're just inconfident in their own capabilities behind what they're doing, and they don't want to look like an idiot if they don't promote well. Other guys might not promote because they feel that the system has wronged them for years and that they should have been promoted years ago, but they were bypassed for promotion for somebody that the organization felt was either a better fit or whatever, what have you. And you know what? At the end of the day, those guys who didn't promote, they're all right for their own reason. Mm-hmm. Maybe they were screwed by the system. Maybe they don't owe us to promote. No, nobody should ever be forced to promote to a position that they don't want to promote to. You only have one life, and you want to walk away at the end of the day from this career having lived your life the way that you want. Don't get me wrong, I always wanted to be a dirty ghetto fireman, and for some reason my life just hadn't panned out that way. I'm terrible at civil service tests, but I'm eternally thankful for the opportunities that I've been given, and I've been pushed down this path that 3 years ago, if you would have told me that I am where I am today, I would have laughed at you and said that you're insane. 5 years ago, I would have told you that I was never going to be a chief officer, and 10 years ago, I'd have told you that I was going to go be a backseat fireman in a big city, hopefully riding on a truck company or a heavy rescue because engine works for the birds. But, you don't know where the world's going to take you, and you only have one life. You only have one career. Make the best of it, man. If you're not happy, go find somewhere else. Mm-hmm. Your organization is what you make it. And are there things that are perfect about my job? No. There's some things that are perfect, but my job isn't perfect overall. There are some things that I would like, but at the end of the day, this organization that I work for represents the closest thing that I can find to my expectations for a career fire department. Hyper aggressive, highly trained, physically fit, and we have really good equipment that the community allows us to use. Some of the best design, actually the best design apparatus that I've ever worked off of, even though I drive an F-150 every day. But that's neither here. I'm hoping someday I can get promoted to Tillerman, but we'll see where the world takes us.
So you are a training chief. What do you do in your position? Like what do you set up for the trainings? Are you just sending things out via email? This is what I want you to train on for the month, or are you actually getting out there in your drill yard or at your stations and leading some of these trainings or coming up with the curriculum that you want them to train on? Do you have any like NFPA tasks or goals? Like, is there anything that you have to check the boxes for on a monthly basis?
So it's not an easy question to answer, and it's because I would love to be out on the yard more than I am. The most time that I actually spend out in the yard with my organization is with our recruits, because we are continually doing recruit classes. Now, somebody comes to us, if they come to us certified, they have to do a brief, bridge program that basically, hey, this is our organization, this is how we operate. Congratulations, you've been trained. Now get on the truck and go to work. That takes about 4 to 6 weeks, give or take. But we do a majority of full recruit schools, and our full recruit schools are about 20 to 26 weeks, give or take. And that's somebody coming in straight off the street, no experience whatsoever, and that's Fire 1, Fire 2, Hazmat Awareness Operations, EMT, and then 4 to 6 weeks of organizational standards. So we're doing that pretty well continually. We have done that multiple times a year, every year for at least the past 4 to 5 years. So we constantly have recruit schools in. The most that I'm going to be assisting is going to be with that. Now, that's not saying that there are some days where I do get a chance to step away from the computer and might have a company ask me, hey, how do you pack this line? Hey, come down. I'm always looking for a reason to take the white shirt off, take the button down off, go down, get dirty on the floor as best I can. But realistically, that's not a majority of what I'm doing. I manage a budget area. I also, in a 75-man organization, we have 3 administrative chief officers. We have the fire chief, deputy chief, and myself, who's the assistant chief or the training chief. And we have to manage all of that essentially ourselves. So we split up some of the duties. I do a lot with basically research, development, a lot of wordsmithing, a lot of stuff with our social media, trying to develop all the graphics and everything as far as that goes, trying to rebuild programs, develop the goal for what our training program is. I have to manage, again, the budget area, which means the budget request, all my budget justifications. I have to track all my budget expenditures, and you would be amazed at actually how difficult that process can be. And then I also have to make sure that all my guys are signed up for classes. On top of that, I'm a state proctor monitor, so if we do a class, like say Fire Officer 1, I'll assign an instructor who's going to teach Fire Officer 1, and I'm going to set up the test with the state. The state's going to send me all the materials, and I evaluate those materials, manage the test for them, so that way our guys can get the state certification for it. So I'm doing tests multiple times throughout the year. Like last year, I think I did 20 plus pro board tests for our organization and other organizations. So I manage a lot of that. Outside of that, I do a lot of networking with the other regional training officers around the area. I assist them with things, whether it be going out and teaching at their departments, setting up meetings, setting up training programs for organizations to work together. I have to manage all of our training hours for the course of the year for state requirements as well as ISO requirements, setting up classes, making sure that people are where they're supposed to be, and also trying to build a better vision for where our organization's going into the future.
You're a busy man.
I'm in the office pretty much every day before 7 a.m. and I'm not leaving until after 4. So I wind up putting in between 9-10 hour days on a 40-hour schedule, 5 days a week. So I will say the city gets a little bit more out of me than they pay me for.
Now, I never got to ask you. I don't know if you wanted to tell me. You didn't say what department you're on.
So
you don't have to. So, I know
the only reason why I'm abstaining is because we have a new city manager, and he's a fantastic individual. I don't necessarily know his feelings on that information being disclosed.
Totally cool.
It's easy to find out, but
I didn't know if you wanted to promote it or not, so that's why I asked. So, and then I also didn't ask why you wanted to be a firefighter. What inspired you to take on this field?
Let's start with the fact that I was conceived on the back of a fire engine and move forward from there.
Okay.
Grew up in the firehouse. Grew up in the firehouse. My old man was a volunteer chief on a department, actually a department that I started on originally in northern Kentucky. And when I was a kid, it's what I wanted to do. Now, when I was a teen, man, the only thing that I wanted to do was ride on a skateboard, chase girls, and play in a death metal band. But like once those teen years started winding down and it was time for me to get serious about my future, I was told that my parents told me that I had to go to college. I didn't have a choice. I was smart enough that I needed to go to school. But they also fed that with a caveat of you also have to pay for school because we don't have that kind of money. So dad came to me with an opportunity that said, you're going to compete for this because we only have one slot and there's 2 or 3 people interested, but we'll put you through the fire academy, the local Fire One Academy, and from there you can go to school to do whatever you want to do. You want to be a fireman? Great. You want to go get your degree in music theory because you want to be a guitarist or bass player? Go ahead, that's fine. They'll pay for it. And showed up to recruit school that first night and I was hooked. It was my 18th birthday, and ever since then, there was nothing else that I wanted to do. I was in hook, line, and sinker, and my life's essentially revolved around the job ever since.
Did you end up playing in a death metal band?
I mean, I played in death metal bands all throughout high school and a little bit into college.
And it was
But
bass, right? Or did you play guitar?
I mean, I've got basses and guitars, but predominantly when I was playing with bands, I was a bass player.
Okay. So you were a bass player, and now you're a training chief for a death metal band, and now you're a training chief. That's quite the turn.
Yeah, but I'm a training chief who still plays death metal.
Yes. So that's wow. Okay. So you've had that calling ever since you were sperm, and
Yeah.
that's saying something. So do you miss? Obviously, it sounds like you miss riding on the trucks. You definitely want to get. You'd love to be on that whenever you get a chance, and you're a working chief. You want to be there working with your guys and just getting into it and getting dirty and getting sweaty with them. Is that some of the motivation that you do? A lot of these outside trainings that you do is because you're not getting into it at work because you're having to sit behind the desk. And, you got to stretch your legs. You got to get in there and stay fit. And is that some of your motivation to do a lot of these trainings?
Yeah, so I have this belief that as a training chief, I should be able to go out and maybe not be the best at anything, but I should still be able to practice my craft. In fact, like my job is to train other people how to be firefighters. I should still be competent and capable of being a firefighter. And it means going to building fires, if I'm not filling into some type of command function, I'm running tool, helping the truck company get set up, whether that's getting the aerial out of the bed, throwing ground ladders, it's helping the engine company stretch their line. It doesn't matter. I'm a big believer that once the job's done, I'm going to be the first one on the back of the engine loading hose. It doesn't matter to me, that I'm a chief, that doesn't matter. I still have a job to do and I still like packing lines. I still like throwing ladders. I still like doing all of that mundane stuff because, man, when you're on the company, that stuff's just like, it's mind numbing. Like, great, I have to load an entire bed of 5-inch. Well, in my position, guess what? I get to load a bed of 5-inch. Guess what I'm not doing? I'm not sitting behind my desk punching the keyboard, wondering what I'm doing with my life.
Yeah.
I'm out here getting a chance to actually participate and help the guys while they're doing the job that I love.
That's great. The guys must love that. They must love seeing you just getting down with them, and it's do they try to push you out of the way? Like when you try to load some 4-inch or 5-inch, do they push you out of the way and say, no, chief, we got this. You're a chief, you can't do this.
Oh yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. If I go down there on the bay floor and they're cleaning the bay floors and I get a squeegee out, I'll have guys try and fight me for a squeegee. I'll have guys tell me, get off here. You don't need to help us load this line. And I'll tell them, don't make me come over there and get my ass kicked, because
awesome.
I want to do it. It's not just, I'm not doing it for points, man. Like, legitimately what my guys think about me is what they think about me. If they love me, great. If they hate me, cool, man. I'm going to still try and do everything that I can to set you up for success in your career. I'm going to try and stand up for injustices. I'm going to try and give everybody the best opportunity that I can, whether I love you, whether I hate you, whatever, it doesn't matter because it's not personal to me. It's professional. And don't get me wrong, the job is very personal to me, but I take my responsibility as a chief officer. I don't take that personally. I have to do the best that I can for everyone. And I may not be perfect at it. If guys see favoritism in me, it's unintentional, and I try and work each and every day to get away from that. But I want to do the job, and I want to do right by everyone as best I possibly can, because one, I owe it to them. Two, I owe it to the taxpayers out there, the people who pay a shit ton of money for our organization to come out and provide service with little in return other than the services that we simply provide.
Tell me a bit about Oath Keepers. I see. I've never had the privilege of going to that yet. How did you get into the Oath Keepers?
So, Oath Keepers instructors are picked traditionally from returning students, and I had a bit of an edge because I grew up just outside Cincinnati, Ohio, in northern Kentucky. The Queen City Fools, which is the Cincinnati Fools chapter, is one of the founding organizations of Oath Keepers. First in, last out fire training is owned by Chris Gilpin, who is the training trustee for the Queen City Fools, or at least he was. I think he still is. I had a great chance to listen to him back in 2013 give a lecture called Heavy Lies the Crown, which is where he talked about the kind of fire officer that I was and how basically that kind of fire officer was the bane of the fire service. It was hilarious. But ever since that man gave that lecture where he was talking about how 20-something-year-old college kids coming into the fire service and becoming company officers was essentially a plague on the fire service, I would follow that man to the gates of hell and back, because he was right. And I realized that I was that kid. And when I heard that Oath Keepers was a thing and that he was involved in one of the masterminds behind it, I wanted to be there. And I was a Queen City Fools member. Even when I was living in Georgia to North Dakota, back to Georgia, I was a Queen City Fools member. Only reason I'm not is because now I've started my own Fools chapter down in
What's the name of your Fools chapter?
Black Sheep Fool. I wanted to be involved in that conference, Oath Keepers, and I didn't care. I wanted to be a student because I wanted to hang out with my friends. I wanted to hang out with the guys that I respected. The guys who would sit here and tell you to your face that, basically you're not the kind of person that this industry needs. And he didn't mean it to be inherently wrong. It was just, he looked at it as being a problem at the time. And I went there as a student for probably 2, maybe 3 years, might have been 2 years. And I showed up and I showed out. I put in work. When we were on the drill yard for 8 hours a day, I was in gear 8 hours out of the day. I didn't take my air pack off for lunch. Me and some of my buddies, when we were there, we wanted more. I was literally choking a guy out on the hand line because I wanted the nozzle, and then there was another guy who had me in a headlock who was punching me in the side of the head because we were fighting for the nozzle. I will tell you that conference, if you want more, you will get more. You are going to be around people who they want to work. And if you don't want to work, get out of the way because there's somebody behind you who does. You want more reps, you can have more reps. You want to be here till the sun goes down? Great, we're going to be here till the sun goes down. You want to be here till the sun comes up? That's fine. Most of these animals, they're not going to sleep tonight anyways. Doesn't necessarily matter. Everybody at that conference is there for one reason, and that is them, the general public. They're there to be better for the general public. They're unapologetic about what they stand for. That organization cares for one thing, and that is taking care of the general public. And I believe in that organization so much. Some of the best people that I know on the face of the earth are in that organization. And I will tell you what is extremely humbling about being part of that organization is that I know that every person there is there for that mission. None of those instructors make a dime. That conference, every ounce of profit, every penny of profit from that conference goes to charity.
Wow. What charity is there, or do they pick one every year?
So the Northern Ohio Fools Jamie Dickman Scholarship Program is one that they've done essentially every year. And Jamie Dickman was a Toledo, Ohio firefighter who was killed on the line of duty. They used to donate to Sons of the Flag. Trying to remember who else they donated to this past year. Firefighter Rescue Survey. Basically, all that money gets turned around and it gets reinvested into the fire service in some form or fashion to help set the stage to make this industry better for the general public. You might have some fairly big name instructors who are there. Those guys aren't taking a dime. That is the conference that does not pay the instructors anything. They might cover hotel, they might cover some meals and everything, but nobody's lining their pockets to go to that conference. They're there for the mission.
That's something right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that says a lot when you donate your time to make people better in the service or the craft. It carries a lot. You know that they're there for those reasons. That's you can tell that there's instructors that are there just for some of the limelight or just to put it on the resume, and then there's some that that they're there because they want you to be better. They want the fire service to be better, and that's when you get the good sets in. That's when you get the good reps and they're pushing you, but they know you got better inside of you. And it's not just all right, next, all right, you forced the door, good, now go back, all right, next. It's hey, all right, you forced it, but let me show you how to do it better. Or they're gonna be up your ass saying, hey, there's people waiting for you inside. Come on, faster, and mask up faster. Like get in there, let's push. And those people that you're doing it with, they're pushing you with you because they want to do the same thing. That they're there for that one reason, is to make themselves better and bring that stuff back home and make the other guys better. That's what I love about, like I say it constantly. That's why I love going to these trainings, because when you can bring it back and bring it back to your department and those guys eat it up, the ones that really want to know about it, the ones that are really dialed in, and for whatever reason they couldn't make it, right? They're working and whatnot, but they want to hear about it. They want to see it. They want to train with you, and you're bringing that passion back to them. And those kind of trainings, when you have passionate instructors, it's that domino effect. It just continuously carries on down the road, and that's where this all boils down to is good instructors, good training, good content, and it inspires everybody to continuously down the road and to just keep pushing everybody to be better. And then you get great performance at the job. When the time comes that everyone's dialed in, because it might have been that one training where that guy went to and he went back to his department and they all trained on it for weeks or months, and all of a sudden a call comes in and man, they're doing great, and it's all because maybe that one guy went to a training that motivated him to do more or try something different.
Yeah. Talking with one of the guys who was on my job, he went to the conference with me last year. He's like, I understand you a little bit better now, and I understand some of the things that you're trying to do and why you're trying to do it. You can't replicate that, Well, I mean, I guess you can in a way, but like it's so difficult to replicate that in your own organization because you can't be a prophet in your own backyard. You have to send your people out to different conferences. You have to get outside your own four walls, and you have to send your people outside your own four walls to see the real fire service. We're only a small sample in our organizations of what this industry is. And there is a broader fire service that is moving so fast, that is embracing data, that is embracing change, that is undergoing a culture shift right in front of our eyes that we can't implement fast enough as organizations to take advantage of.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say that's one of the great things about Oath Keepers is that everything's data driven. When we're talking about rescue statistics, we're talking about the most current version of data coming out of the firefighter rescue survey. They're talking about the information that's coming out of the UL studies as it relates to fire suppression techniques. And you're dealing with guys who are basically the kids that your mom would never let you play with. We're rude, we're brash, we don't really take shit off of anyone. We're the kind of guys that'll be with you on a hand line and, try and choke you out, punch you upside the head to try and steal your nozzle because we want that work. We want to do more. We need more of that in the fire service. We need more of that unapologetically passionate people who care about the job, because you know what? I don't care if you call me and apologize for my particular use of words. It's things that I've been called. I've been called fire fag. I've been called a ketchup dick. I've been called, a jerk off because of the things that I believe in. Whatever, dude. I don't care. I love this job. If they told me tomorrow that I couldn't be a fireman, you'd have to take away my shoelaces because it suck start my shotgun. Like this is what I want to do, and I'm passionate about it, and I care. I care so much about just giving back to this world, and this is the best way that I know how. And I'm not going to apologize for it. I want to be better. I want to inspire others around me to be better. I want to do better. And I want to see this industry become what it really is meant to be, and that's service of something greater than ourselves. To get away from this cowardice mindset where we mean more than the general public, and I'm over it. I'm over the people sitting here running their mouths. Dude, that's fine. You want to sit here and you want to badmouth me. You want to badmouth my friends, the people that I care about, the people who actually care about this job, the people who want to make this job better. Cool, cuz I'm gonna be over here doing more work. If you want to come join me, great. If not, whatever. Don't care. What else can I say?
Yeah, man, you said it all right there. Yeah, I mean, damn, you got the passion, you got the drive, and it's refreshing to hear and talk to people that have that much dedication and passion to it, and it's obviously infectious. You continuously seem to inspire in other people. Like I said, like we've only spoken for a short time, but as soon as I started talking to you, I was like, wow, I got to hear more from this guy. I need to learn more about you and what makes you tick. And it seems like you just have the ultimate love for this profession. And, I love the goal that you want to see it succeed. And you're right. I think with more people like yourself, me, and man, 100 other people that continues to have that passion, that knowledge, and if we could spread it and keep doing what we can, it's going to be better. It is better. I do firmly believe that we're getting there. I do think that we are helping, and I think that the message is getting to be louder and it's clearer that we're here to make it better. We're here to push you to be harder. We want you aggressive, but we want you smart. Like you talked about data, right? Like we're doing. It's just amazing that we didn't have that before, right? The numbers weren't there. And even the why wasn't there. It was just you're doing the job, and I want you to go do this, and then you need to go do that, and after you're done doing that, this is what else you're going to do. But now that we have the numbers, we have the data, we have the science of a lot of these things, and it's out there for us to understand that it's okay to be aggressive. It's okay to do these things. Here's the why that you need to be aggressive. Here's the why that we want you to go into that room, but we're gonna show you how to do it safely. I mean, we are doing it safely. We have the knowledge to keep us safe. Yeah, are people going to die? Yeah, that's going to happen. That's the oath that we took. That's the risk we're willing to take to save others. But we now know the why of how to do it and why we're going to do it, as opposed to just somebody pointing a finger and telling you to get in there without knowing any reason for it. And I think with we keep pushing that knowledge and that data, we've got the books out there, we've got the podcasts out there, we've got the trainings out there, and if more people take advantage of those, it's going to make that world that we want to see grow.
Well, we need to embrace discomfort, and we need to embrace the fact that we don't know everything. One of the things that I've always prided myself on throughout the course of my career is that I've never been the best at anything, but I've always been extremely well-rounded, because I'm one of those people that if I don't know something, guess what? I'm going to go learn about it. If throwing ground ladders is going to be my weak link, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to throw ground ladders until I'm proficient at it. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to read every article that I can read when it comes to ground ladders, and I'm going to understand as much as I can about it. If I don't understand forcible entry, or if I don't understand building construction and something challenges me to identify that gap in my knowledge base, I'm going to go try and learn about it. I sit here and talk about school. Education is not the enemy. And I understand that a lot of blue collar firemen out there, and for the first 10 years of my career, I did not have a degree to my name. And I was extremely proud of that. And I'm still proud of the fact that I managed to get the first 10 years of my career without having a degree behind my name. But education is not the enemy. Ignorance is the enemy. And that doesn't mean when I say ignorance, I'm not talking about like ignorance from the perspective of chief officers who forget what it's like to be a line fireman, or firefighters who don't understand what it's like and the decisions that chief officers have to make. Ignorance is the enemy overall. If you don't understand something, take an engine guy who doesn't give a shit about the truck. If you don't care to learn anything about the truck, are you as good of an engine guy as you can be?
Mm-hmm.
No, because if you're not sitting here, you're not trying to understand how ventilation can impact your job as an engine company firefighter, you are not as effective an engine company guy as you could be. If you're a truck guy and you do not understand the exact needs of the engine company, why they need it, and why it might be taking them more time to get that line in place because you don't understand how difficult it is to lug 2.5 in comparison to 1.75 inches, whether we're talking about obstacles, not going around obstacles, long stretches, not going around long stretches. If you don't understand more about that information, you are not going to be as effective at your job, because you may not know when to open that roof when the engine company needs it, because it's really difficult to communicate through radio communications. Hearing that sound of water going on beneath you, knowing that it's time to make that pop. These different other things. Ignorance is the enemy, not education. We should be continually educating ourselves, whether it's formally or it's informally, to try and become better at understanding our jobs. Now, none of my degrees have ever fought a fire. None of my degrees have made me a better firefighter. They have made me necessarily a better company officer in the performance of my duties. It made me a better administrator. So that way I can do things better to support the needs of the guys beneath me. If there's anything that I could impress upon anyone, it's the lesson of don't be afraid to learn. Always be willing to learn. Always be willing to learn about yourself, understand what it is that you don't know, and then go out and learn it. None of this stuff is hard. It's time consuming. School, it's not hard. It's time consuming. It costs money. But at the end of the day, it's not hard. It is more difficult for me to go out there, put on my turnout gear, and do 100 up downs than it is for me to sit here and type out an essay, a 2-page paper.
Yeah.
But you know what? People are just afraid. Where do I start? Where do I begin? You just do. What do? You sit here and you start punching away on a keyboard, and eventually words will start making sense, and eventually things will come together. It's the same thing for how does somebody go through a smoke diver program when they don't know where to start? Great. Where do you start? You go out there, you put your turnout gear on, and you start moving. That's the first step. Everything will start falling into place after that. Identify your weakness and start hammering on it. That's the only way to really move forward in this job.
You nailed it, man. And in full disclosure, I don't have a college degree. I am a GED, and because I grew up, didn't want education. I wanted to work. I needed money, and that was more important than education. And as I've gotten older and now have kids, I kick myself because now I have to work harder at that being older, where now my schedule is more full, right? Like having kids, having a full-time job, being a good husband, and everything else that you pick up along the way. Now I make excuses, and I keep throwing those excuses in the bucket. And and getting older, you're going to start running out of excuses. And I that was one of my biggest regrets. And I used to think that the education, the fire service really didn't matter. Well, like you just said, blue collar workers, right? Like, why do I need a college degree to fight a fire? But it's knowledge, and you nailed it perfectly. Ignorance is the enemy. It's okay to be educated. It's okay to get your college degree and excel in that. And honestly, for me, it's reverse. For me, it's easier for me to put on my gear and do exercises than to sit down and try to focus on some kind of curriculum that's not exciting. That's not going to get my blood pumping. And I actually have to sit down and train my brain to focus on something and write an essay. And it's funny. I love to write, and I do love to read, but I like to do it on my own time. And now it's gotten easier when you have your online education courses. They promote that. Like you can take your time and do it at your own pace. And so I used to really think that was a thing that was not needed in the fire service. That why do we need the fire officer designation, or why do we need to have a master's to be a firefighter? But as I progress, again, it's getting humbled and learning humility. And part of that is understanding there's a bigger picture, that we need to train our brains as well as our bodies to be proficient in this job. And whether it's fire science or administration, and you need to learn the ins and outs behind everything about how to run a department and what it takes. And I think as we talk, we are quick to bash our administration. We are quick to bash, as line firefighters, what the chiefs are doing or not doing. And sometimes we're so quick to bash because we don't know that, because we never took the time to educate ourselves of how to run a budget, or how to run personnel. And those are sometimes the boring things. And we just think, hey, I want this new truck, buy me this truck. Or I want new hoses. Why haven't you bought me hoses yet? I want I want the best extrication tools. I want battery powered tools. Yeah, all that costs money. Some of those are grant funded things. Grants you just don't pull out of your ass. You got to write up those things, and they're not easy to write. And there's college courses to do those. And if you want those things, maybe you should take a college course and learn how to write grants. And then maybe you can help out your department to get that better equipment, or to get more manpower by becoming educated and taking those college courses and learning how to write certain documents to get you those things that you want. And when I was coming up in the fire service, I didn't give a shit about it. I just cared about putting on gear, pulling hose, putting out fires.
Hey, man, that's all that I cared about when I started. And realistically, that's still all I really care about at the end of the day. But, I'll say this. I rose to the challenge when somebody challenged me to go back to school, because I did start off in school. I went to school. I went to college when I was a kid, but I got my first full-time job. I didn't need it. I only wanted to do the job. Hell, I didn't even know if I ever wanted to be a company officer, much less where I am today. But at the end of the day, all this stuff has a place. You know, you talked about things like designation. I hold the Chief Fire Officer, Chief Training Officer, and Fire Officer designation. All that is it is just an overview of my career, my involvement in the fire service, my education, the things that I have had to do as an officer to see if I have developed a good enough plan to continue to develop myself throughout the course of my career, and that I have been well-rounded enough in my experiences to meet the benchmarks for what they would expect. Because when you do any of your designations through the Center for Public Safety Excellence, you have to basically build a plan, and you have to tell them what your plan is for developing yourself over this designation cycle. And when you go to reconfer or basically re-up your designation, you have to prove to them that you've either met your benchmarks, haven't met your benchmarks, why you didn't meet your benchmarks, and what your goals are for the future. All that stuff is just building a plan for the future to continue your professional development. How many chief officers have you seen out there that once they wind up in their position, they don't go out and they train anymore? They don't go to any more leadership development classes. They don't go to any more chief officer development classes. They don't do anything, much less go out and put their hands on any fire hose or any ground ladders. All they do is they just sit there and they do their job. I don't believe in that. I have to have a goal. I have to have a physical goal, and I have to have an academic goal I'm constantly working towards. You know, I haven't quite figured out what my next academic goal was. I was considering a doctorate, considering another master's, might just try a completely different, program, something, whatever, and my next physical goal is going to probably be trying to bite off the big show, and try and maybe go to one of the 60-hour smoke diver programs over the course of the next year. But at the end of the day, all this stuff has a plate, and you sit here and say that you have a GED as if that's anything to sit here and look down upon. The girl that I've been with for the past 8 years, she had a GED, and guess what? She has a college degree now. She went through culinary school because she wanted to. She's a hairstylist by trade, but at the end of the day, she wanted to do something different. She wanted to reach out, and she wanted that challenge, and she did it. You can do it too.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, you just got to start, and you sit here and say it's another excuse in the bucket. Well, one of our best-selling T-shirts that we had at the Uncommon Fireman was a shirt that said "Your excuses suck." And if you sit here and think about it, the only thing that you're doing is you're making excuses for yourself. You're not achieving, the peak, Mike that you could be by just continuing to have excuses. And you can sit here and talk about wife and kids, but you know what? At the end of the day, you said it yourself. You can go through a self-paced program that can help you develop your skill set, and you could wind up being a greater asset than you already are. And again, I'm not shit talking you. I'm just trying to
real.
I'm letting you know that you know it. You said it by your
Mm-hmm.
own words. All you need to do is just sacrifice the fact that and admit that you're making excuses and just do it. What do? You just start. You just type in that www.insertschoolnamehere.edu and go.
You nailed it. No, you're absolutely right. And it's not shit talking. It's just being real. And that's what the brotherhood is too, is being real and saying, hey, I expect more of you. I know you can do it, and just get it done. So I appreciate that. And it's that's what people need. Let's talk about actually real quick, the Uncommon Fireman. How did you get in that real quick? Because I love following them, and I mean the gospel they got is fantastic. And honestly, I have one of those shirts. Your excuses suck, and I wear it, and like you just threw it right back in my face because you're absolutely right. Your excuses suck. So tell me about that.
So, man, how I even wound up involved with that, I don't even really remember. But I started on that page as like one of the OGs, and Chris Snow worked for Smith County ESD2 down in Smith County, Texas. And one of the guys who was on the job with him was one of my backseat firefighters when I was a captain in North Dakota. So when I heard that my boy Calvin was working with Snow, who was running the Rogue Tailboard at that time, and he started this page, The Uncommon Fireman, we started talking, we started chatting. I think I donated a little bit of money to the cause, did some graphic design work because I did some logo work for the Rogue Tailboard. And like, if you've seen the workout, the McGee and Beecher and, all these other ones, I created the logo for the Uncommon Fireman, and I did a bunch of the logo work for like all the workouts that were on there.
Nice.
So when they wound up trying to build the actual organization, the LLC itself, me, Matt McGee, and Chris Snow and Caleb Smith sat on that e-board, and I don't necessarily know what her status is anymore. I haven't talked with Snow in a while. I mean, I saw McGee this past week when he was eating misery at OBT. Caleb's pursuing a career in ministry, and I mean, I've talked with him earlier this week as well. But we're just kind of doing our own thing out here, man. That organization started off, and it still is great. It's a good place for people to go to find the motivation to push themselves. But a bunch of us have more or less gone radio silent because we're trying to move in silence a little bit. Is one of the last shirts that we did, and the concept behind that is that we want to be quiet, professional, and that it's not always about look at me, look what I can do, and look what I did. And don't get me wrong, I have just as much vanity as anybody else. It's easy to fall victim to the likes. It's easy to fall victim to the shares and everything. But I'm just out here trying to do me and do the best that I can by the world. And I took a big step back from social media probably in the past year and a half to 2 years to try and reflect on that concept of being a quiet professional.
I love it. And you're right. So honestly, it's it can kind of overtake your life when you start focusing on that, right? You start losing track. Your phone's constantly in your hand, and as soon as you make a post, well, who liked it and who shared it, and yeah, I know from firsthand, it's it can be overwhelming. It can be addicting, and it takes a lot actually to walk away from it and focus on what's important, and that's your job and that's your life. And I honestly always appreciated seeing what you guys are putting together on that. Chris Snow is amazing. I loved learning from him when I saw him at Dadgum. Man, the passion he's got and the knowledge that he shares, and that he continues to do that, and the faith that you guys have is it's addicting just to be around you guys and listen to it. So I appreciate what you shared to me, because I was a faithful follower from that. I loved the message that you guys had to bring, and I just wanted to touch base on that real quick. And then you also worked at the CFT, the Green Team. How did you get involved with County Fire Tactics?
So, a majority of your conferences out there, if you want to get involved, you have to show up and you have to put in the work. You have to be invited into that fold. Well, late 2021, I believe, CFT was doing multiple conferences a year, and the team that Chief Isaacson had put together was just more or less worn out, and they just couldn't continue to do it by themselves. They needed more hands. There was one CFT sub page for people who had been to some of their conferences where Chief put out a blurb that basically said, if you were involved in your organization's training division, if you were a training officer and you want to be involved with County Fire Tactics team, send us an email between this date and this date, and we'll consider that essentially an application, and we will pick who we want to be involved with the program from there. And so I called up my training chief at the time, because I was a lieutenant working in the training division, and said, hey, boss, this sounds like a good opportunity for me to be involved. Do you think this is something that you would support? And he's like, yep, get it done. And I put in, and I got an email back from Chief Isaacson that basically said, welcome aboard. We would like to see you at this conference. Here's my phone number. Let me know when you get in town, more or less. I mean, there's more information than that, but condensing all that together. And all I did was just show up and went to work. And we helped set up the conferences, whether it's running hose, whether it's building prop. Some of our guys are excellent at diving into dumpsters to find furniture for us to set up, little impromptu things here and there. There are some dudes from Alabama that they could build an entire house in 3 days if you gave them the right volume of materials, and those dudes are absolute animals. Those guys from Homewood, Alabama, phenomenal individuals. But we're the ones who are more or less behind the scenes helping get everything together and making sure that all the the trains are running, that things are where they need to be when they need to be. The Green Team is a fantastic group of individuals. I love all those dudes dearly, and I wish I could be there more, but being a training chief, I got to stay a little closer to home these days, making sure that my job duties are being done.
Sure. Yeah, I'm sure that keeps you busy, for like you just talked about, trying to keep track of all that. I mean, you did a lot, dude. It's incredible of all the things that you've done and that you still continue to do. And that it's cool that you're so humble about all of this, and that you have your failures, you have your successes. I mean, in the beginning, talking about, I wouldn't say it's a failure, but it was a big learning you talked about the structure fire you were at, and being humbled that way. What lessons do you teach others, to through your failures, through your successes? How do you relay that, especially, I guess, more through failures, right? Like, um, we all have them, and I use those as a valuable lesson for myself when I'm teaching others of the either, honestly, failures of following the wrong people, or learning the hard way of how to do the job. Um, I've learned the hard way of not hitching my wagon to certain people, and I've learned that you got to be a free thinker, and you've got to develop your own opinion. That's honestly, in the fire service, those are one of the hard life lessons that I've learned, is that you think somebody knows it all because they talk a big game, and then you find out that they don't know it all. And like you talked about, like, you have people that haven't continued their education, they haven't taken any leadership classes, and they just sat stagnant and they didn't do anything extra in their lives. Those are the people that I listened to because they had the most years in, and I thought that they knew it all. And it made me realize that was my humbling experience, is that you gotta get outside that comfort zone and learn from other people. You can't just rely on that one person who's only, their whole life is that one department, or that one experience they've had is just being in a certain position. And I've learned also that they never grew outside their comfort zone of learning new ideas and new tactics and new tips. And so that's what inspired me to learn through my failures. Of, I was always just taught, just push the hose forward, but then I started educating myself and reading books and learning from other people that there's a better way to do our job. And those were my failures of not doing my due diligence of actually getting outside education. And now I'm excited that I did it.
Yeah, man, we can do a lot of things through brute force and ignorance, but at the end of the day, that doesn't mean it's the most efficient way.
Mm-hmm.
Failure. Harnessing failure is perhaps the single most important lesson that I could teach anyone, because how you handle failure says a lot about your character and as a person, the type of person that you are. And I'm a person who fails a lot. My biggest failure that I can think of in the past year, there's a company out there, a leather company called Chucktown Leather. It's ran by a guy named Jake Perry. Jake Perry was in my Flames class. We both wound up going out on medical in that Flames class, and we both do leather work. Now, I run a little more or less under the table gig where I just kind of do it as a hobby. And probably about 2-3 years ago, I was asked by a buddy of mine if I could do a shield for him, and it was essentially a knockoff of one of Jake's shields. And I told my buddy at the time, dude, I don't like doing this. This is another man's work. I just, like, this isn't cool to me. And he said, dude, I'm trying to get on his books to get this actual shield, but his books aren't open right now. Is there any way that you can get me done? And I told him, fine, I'll do it this one time for you, but I don't like doing this, and I'm not going to do it again. Well, that opened the principle of the normalization of deviance. And that is where I normalized a deviant behavior, where I did something that I knew wasn't right for one of my friends. And about a year after that, somebody else said, hey, you did this shield that looks like one of Jake's for Pat. Can you do that for me? And a year had gone by where I remembered that, like, no, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have done that for Pat in the first place. But just like, oh, yeah, I've done it before. I'll do it again. And at one point in time last year, a post pops up on Facebook that basically says, this is what you get, what you pay for. And I will tell you that my work is not like Jake Perry. And I got a message from Jake that said that he had posted that before he realized that I was the one who did the work. And at the end of the day, I told him, like, man, the lashing that I'm getting, even though you didn't name me physically as the person who did this, the lashing that I'm getting on social media right now, I deserve, because I did do this. I 100%, I took your work and I copied it, and I did it for one of my buddies as just something to help him out until he could get on your books. And I completely forgot that I had basically made a promise to that dude that I wasn't going to do any more of these, because I shouldn't have done it in the first place. I had told Jake, man, I apologize for this profusely. If you want to make a big social media apology about it, I will. 100%, I'm owning the fact that I made this mistake and that I shouldn't have ever done this, and I apologize for this even coming across your desk. And he said, no, it's not a big deal. I went ahead and I did it anyways. I went ahead and I owned up to it. I shouted from the rooftops that I did this, because you know what? At the end of the day, I did it. I'm the one who made the decision that despite one of my buddies trying to basically pressure me into it, that I was going to copy another man's work, pass it off more or less as my own, even though realistically there's no way that you could ever think that my work was his. Um, and I owned up to it. And at the end of the day, I got more praise for that, and I didn't do it for the praise. I don't do anything for the fucking praise. I did it because it was the right thing to do, but I got more praise for standing up on my failure and admitting the failures that I had than I did just by doing what it is that I do. And if that's how you approach failure, by just owning up to it, saying, guess what I did was wrong, or what I did was not good enough, eating it and moving on, you will make it so much further in this career than sitting here and trying to shove your mistakes underneath the rug. Because guess what? Everyone sees you. And maybe not everyone sees you, but people who are impacted, people who actually have a voice and a vote and a say, they see it. So how you handle that shows so much more about your character than anything else. So much more.
Absolutely. Well, we talk about it a lot. We talk about integrity and having morals and being ethical, and people have it. Some people don't. And man, that's a great experience that you just shared with us. That it takes a lot.
I wouldn't call it great. Those was a rough couple days.
I'm sure for you,
Yeah.
But for me, like you could grow. You have to grow from it, and like you said, you can not grow from it, and you can hide from it, but eventually it's going to come back and bite you. And being able to man up, admit your mistakes, and that's part of the learning process as us being adults. So again, it's funny. My kids get tired of me hearing it, but I always try to work in the fire service, morals into things, and but it's true. I really do feel like a lot what we do in life also is what we do in the fire service, because it is our family, it is our life, and it all kind of ties into one, because we live it and breathe it. And if you have integrity in the firehouse, you have integrity outside your house, and be able to express that and understand that you've done wrong. It takes a lot, especially because we're all alpha males, and that's we don't like to admit when we're wrong, and it takes a big man to admit that. And when you can apply that as a teachable tool to other people, it helps them to understand that it's okay to admit when you're wrong and admit mistakes, whether you hacked something wrong or you screwed up on a call. It's you're admitting that you're wrong. That's the biggest part. And honestly, the current department I'm on is, and I absolutely love all those people on there, because the biggest thing we always talk about, and the biggest thing they drove home to me when I joined, was you can screw up all you want. If you screw up, just let us know you screwed up. Just admit it. Don't lie, because once you lie, then we lose trust in you. And that's a real teachable thing. And if you don't really drive that home with people, I honestly think it's like square one with probies, to be honest with you. Like, to let them know, like, if you screw up, it's going to be okay. Don't lie about it. Like, let us know, or else if you lie, you ruin that trust with me. And that's a huge teachable moment for anybody, whether it's our kids and it's the newest kid on your department. If you don't teach them that, then you're just leading them down the path of failure. And that's bigger than just pulling hoses. Like, you got to have somebody you can trust. So it's honestly, for me, that's why I do love that story, is because it takes a lot to admit that, especially on a public forum like that, to admit to the world.
I don't hide behind any of my failures, man. I look at them as life lessons that I've had to learn the hard way. And you know what? If I can save somebody from making the mistake that I made, great. Then I've just set their career up for success greater than I've set my own up. Battalion chief that I work with has a saying, and I'm going to botch it here a little bit, and it's that, I can teach any idiot how to be a fireman, but I can't teach you how to be a decent human being. That stuff has to be learned on your own. That can't just be beaten into you by repetition in the same way that basic skills can be. And the only thing that I want to work with is good people. I can make halfway decent firemen, but I can't work with a bad heart, if that makes sense.
Oh, it makes 100%. Absolutely. That's who we all want to work with. We want people who have good heart and have good morals, and you have a lot of more fun with people that actually give a shit and care about others. When you work with somebody who's just an asshole all the time, who doesn't like anybody, then it's a horrible experience. And I think that's why, again, there's certain people that connect and certain people don't, because when you have people that actually love each other and you express that, and you can help make the experience better for everybody. And that's what's so great about you just spreading that right there. Talk about real quick, you said that you actually like truck work more than engine work, because you teach a truck cadre class. Are you more of a truck guy, or are you more of an engine guy?
So I say a lot of that stuff, and anybody who's actually part of the Oath Keepers engine cadre probably knows where I really stand. some of my best friends on the face of the earth are actually in the engine cadre, and I was put as part of the truck cadre because, again, I pride myself on being well-rounded, so I can teach in essentially any spot that I need to be put in. And the year when I came on in the cadre, they needed a little bit more help on the truck side, so I got pushed over to the truck side, and I've been over there pretty much ever since.
Gotcha. Okay.
What I enjoy more about the truck side is that I think it's a little more these days data driven, and there's so many different tasks that my ADHD can sit here and go and do a whole lot of different things. I'm very passionate about engine work. When I was put in charge of the engine operations program of my department, I wrote the engine company operations manual for our organization. I did a lot of research and data analysis. And I'm one of those people that if I'm given a task, I want to be the best at it that I can be. Maybe I didn't give a shit about engine work, but I promise you when I was put in charge of engine operations, I was going to be the best damn engine guy that I could be. I've always gravitated towards truck work because it's been a little bit more, talking about mechanical advantage and nerd shit again, because degrees or not, I've always been a nerd and I like learning. I've always gravitated more towards that because there's been more numbers involved with that. But realistically, if they ever brought me back or brought me over to the engine side, I wouldn't sit here and complain. I'd still be the absolute best engine company instructor that I could be. But for now, those guys on the engine side can suck.
That's good. Hey, so as we're winding down, did I miss anything? Is there anything you want to bring up or talk about before we start shutting it down?
And we've pretty much gone down a majority of the rabbit holes as far as understanding my philosophy. And a lot of people might try and figure, where does somebody like me gravitate from? Like, where does my mindset come from? And everything. Me and Snow, we both belong to the same fraternity, along with other guys in the Oath Keepers cadre, guys like Andy Plofkin, guys like Ron Whitaker. We all belong to this fraternity. It's the oldest fraternity out there, and it's an organization of good men dedicated to making good men better. And I'm very proud to say that the life lessons that have been instilled in me by this organization are part of why I am the person that I am today. When I was a young officer, the lessons that were instilled in me in the lodge were part of what defined my success and my failures. But more or less, when I failed, how I rose from those failures was due to that. And it was taking the lessons that institution instilled in me and applying them in my everyday life has turned me into the person that I am today. So I have to say, thanks to my Masonic Lodge, Boone United 264 in Union, Kentucky, and my, I guess, home lodge now is Revable number 15 in Savannah, Georgia. Those organizations right there have helped define me as the person that I am today, and I'm eternally grateful for it.
How long you been doing that for?
Right about, let's see, this will be 12 years.
12.
So as long as I've been an officer.
Now, do you move, because I know a gentleman who's in it up here, for the Masons, do you move up to Shriner? That's a different thing?
So to be a Shriner, you must be a Mason, but not every Mason is required to be a Shriner. I am a Shriner. Actually, my fez is right up here.
Oh, nice. Look at that.
I'm not very active in the Shrine. The Shrine hospitals do phenomenal work for the kid, and that's why I'm still a member. I could pay a charity to the Shrine hospitals and not necessarily be a member, but I believe in the Fez and everything that it stands for. As far as like the educational aspect of what you go through in the Shrine, it's not necessarily my scene. I'm more of a Scottish Rite kind of guy, which is where you start talking about like 32nd and 33rd degrees. It's very into philosophy and everything. That's kind of my scene. But essentially, it is a great fraternity that's geared towards just giving men the tools that they need to be better men in the sight of their creator, in hopes that whatever winds up on the other side of this life, when we cross the veil of death, that we get whatever it is that we were meant to be promised, as long as we upheld the tenets of our belief.
Wow. That's awesome.
I mean, man, I'm a nerd. What can you say?
Dude, that's great. It's great that you have something that keeps you grounded and directed. And honestly, it's something I never knew that you did. So that's great. And being proud of it. Love it. So anything else that you're going to be going to? I'm going to Bears of the Oath in February. I'll be down in Georgia. Will I be close to you at all? Or are you going to be far away?
You'll probably be about 4.5 to 5 hours away. I actually talked with Shane earlier this week when he was stopping by my station working on some hydraulic rescue tools. I don't think I'm going to be able to swing that. The next thing, I might be going down to CFT in February. I'm trying to get down there to be able to help out for fire school. And then after that, my March is pretty well booked up between rope rescue technician and the regional company officer academy. I'm trying to think. I might be down in Pensacola at the end of April, first part of May for command officer boot camp. But between that and I'll be teaching at Oath Keepers in October. Going to try and be back at OBT 8 in the fall. Going to be real rough to see if I can make OBT 7 in March. But, again, constantly busy, man. Just trying to do what I can to make the job better and help make my organization better.
I love it. And yeah, you were just at OBT. My good friend there, Brian Rondu, participated in that, and he was telling me his experience. And wow, it's like you said, it's not for the faint of heart. And that's the first 30 minutes he told me what it was like. So like talking about being humbled and talking about if you think you have it all, and he's such a humble dude. Like Brian is a great guy, and the fact that he gave that a shot coming from New Hampshire and going down to do that is being completely out of your element, completely out of your comfort zone is commendable. And I'm glad he did it, and I'm glad that you got to see him there, and he had eyes watching him. So I appreciate you guys having his back and making sure he was okay. So he's driven. He says he's going to come back even stronger and go for it again. So I'm so happy that he's not discouraged, and he was telling me how amazing everybody was, even though he didn't succeed in the program. They didn't make him feel like shit. That they let him know, like, you're the 1%. Like you came down here, you got accepted, and you gave it your all. Don't stop. Train harder. Come back.
Yeah, and if there is one person that I can tell you that I could shout out on that, and that is Baz. Basil Abraham is, as far as I'm concerned, the gold standard of what a fire officer should be. The fact is that, in the instructor briefing, he sat down and told each and every one of the instructors there that do not ever look down on these students. If they pass, great. If they fail, it doesn't matter. The fact is they showed up here today. They paid the money, most likely out of their own pocket, and they maybe don't 100% know what they're signing up for, but they volunteered to be here. They're the 1%. Most people wouldn't even sign up for this, and they did. They're here. You will treat them with respect, and you will be out there and you will be working with them. If instructors are in gear, or if students are in gear, instructors should be in gear. We should be leading by example the entire time. Those leadership skills right there, I can't even tell you how much I respect that, and the fact that he leads by example. And we've had a couple conversations over the course of the past week, and that man right there and the program that he has put together, I'd follow him to the gates of hell, and I would go with him with squirt guns filled with gasoline. Like that is the level of respect that I have for him and the standards that he sets forth with his program. And you're right, we didn't make any of the students feel poorly for not succeeding. The fact is that it sucks. There is no doubt about what you walk into is not going to be fun. But at the end of the day, we all have suffered through it, and we understand it, and we respect the fact that maybe it wasn't for you, maybe you weren't ready, but we want to see you back here.
Mm-hmm.
We want to see you succeed. Nobody wants to throw anyone off the arc. Nobody wants to throw anyone off the arc. And it's just love. It's just love for the struggle, love for the fact that you came here and you gave us everything that you got. Come back. Let's do it again. I want to see everyone wearing a black shirt.
Yeah.
But it's all on them.
I love the message, man. That's great. Yeah. And that's why you do it. And that's why we're happy to have you doing these things that you're doing. And I appreciate the hell out of you, brother. It's been an amazing conversation. I thank you for spending your time with me and getting to know more about Ian Schulte, common spelling.
It is those German last names, man.
They get you every time. Thank you again, Ian. I can't wait to talk to you more. I can't wait to meet you. This is why I love doing this, to be able to talk to people. That was a good knuckle crack right there, my friend. That was hardcore.
Get that from typing on keyboards all day.
Man, so Ian Schulte, thank you, bro. I appreciate you. Thank you for being on the C.A.N report. You have such great energy, and talk about being humble, man. You definitely are, and I can't wait to see what else you'll be doing and all the accomplishments that you're going to be doing. Thank you, everyone, for listening to the C.A.N report. Before we end it, there's a lot of stuff going on right now. I mean, the whole world's got shit going on, but right now, I think for LA, man, there's a bunch of shit happening, right? But the biggest thing is we have to keep in mind, whatever the politics are, whatever else is we hear on the news, the agenda really for me is we got to look out for our brothers and sisters in LAFD, right? They're working hard. We got people from Mexico that came up to help them. You've got people from Washington State. You've got people pretty much from all over coming in to help put out these fires. There's a lot of fundraisers, a lot of donations going on to help get these guys some remedy, some either it's whether it's food, whether it's clothing, whether it's whatever they need to help keep them doing the job. So there's a lot of fundraisers going on. Check out the Yard Foundation, which is hefty. Hit him hard from the Yard. Stash Salt, my man, Griffin Coiner. He's got a T-shirt that he has on his website. He's got roots in California, so he's donating sales from those T-shirts as well. Hefty's got T-shirts going on. My very good friend, Notorious Fire Company, Lenny Brown. He also has shirts that he's got made up to also donate those proceeds to LA. So if you guys are looking for a way to help out our brothers and sisters, if you want to try to make a little bit of a difference, that is some ways to do that. So please look at those sites. Please donate if you can, and please keep our brothers and sisters in LAFD and all of them fighting the fires in there in your prayers. We're currently praying for them now, and hopefully they can get some rest and find some kind of way to get out of this, and hopefully squash those fires. Ian, thank you so much, brother. I appreciate you, and thank you all for being on the C.A.N report. I love you all, and Nozzle Tov.